This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and this is my Wrestling Observer review. And I have some disappointing news at first for people. I did announce yesterday that I was going to get an interview with this man here, Jesse the Body Ventura. His agent came to an agreement with me yesterday, which was honestly for an amount of money that I never would have made back on YouTube. But I'm a big fan of his, and I really wanted to interview him. And then this piece of shit agent today, and yes, you are a complete piece of shit, came back to me today after already agreeing to a price, wanting significantly more on an interview that I wasn't going to make money on to begin with. So your agent's a scumbag, Jesse. I'm sure you have more than just this piece of shit, but it's unfortunate for me and unfortunate with the fans that you have such a greedy, worthless person that I won't even mention representing you. Also, people should check out the interview I did with Jennifer Haas, who is the daughter of Tito Santana. I interviewed her just before I did this, and she actually did great. And as you guys know, I'm part of world-class professional wrestling, now based in Texas, and they have their big relaunch in the fall. They are actually arranging for somebody to train her where she lives in Las Vegas and potentially wrestle for them. So she's going to give me an update on Monday how her first training session goes. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So let me get into the news now. There's a lot of news this week. Dwayne Johnson is on the cover of this week's People magazine. And I guess they're talking again that he might run for president. Regarding Brock Lesnar, he has not signed yet to return. He's still a free agent. There is a possibility, since the Saudi Arabia shows pay WWE so much money, he could appear on the Saudi Arabia show later in this year or WrestleMania next year. As far as SummerSlam goes, the tickets haven't even officially gone on sale yet, but they're moving very well. There's only about 3,000 seats left at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. So he would help with the pay-per-view, but obviously it looks like it's going to be WWE's most attended event of the year at this point. So they wouldn't need him to draw in that stadium. The rumor is it's going to be John Cena against Roman Reigns for that one. And if it's not, people are going to be really disappointed, because I don't think there's any wrestler in WWE that's regularly appearing for them now on their television shows that wrestling each other would really be that much of a draw. There's no one really over. Their most over person is Roman Reigns, and he's far from a household name. I'm putting this part in the WWE news because it had to do with an incident in the WWE. I already did my review on the Dynamite Kid Dark Side of the Ring last Sunday that people can look up. I'll even pin it to the top of the comments later. People want to see my review of the Dynamite Kid Dark Side of the Ring, which I went into a lot of detail. His daughter, Bronwyn, is going to do another interview with me probably in early July about her thoughts on it. She's still digesting it. It was my favorite of the Dark Side of the Rings this season. None of the other ones I really thought were good. But there was a part in this which Dynamite brought up in his book that Dave Meltzer brought up in The Observer. And I actually don't agree with Dave Meltzer on this. And I'll quote this. So here we go. Quote, Rougeau told Dino Bravo and other people that he had called people in Montreal, and if something happened to him, they would get back at Dynamite's family. saying they knew where he lived. Jacques never actually called anyone. It was a total bluff. He actually told this story to several people, hoping one of them would tell Dynamite, and Bravo was one of them, since he knew Bravo was much closer to Dynamite than Jacques and would tell Dynamite. So Dynamite was in fear of his family and sold his house and moved to another house, end quote. Regarding this, everybody knows Dino Bravo was actually involved in the mafia, and he was actually killed by a mafia hit, according to reports. If it's not the mafia, it's bikers. Gino Brito, who was Dino Bravo's partner, actually went to jail related to that type of activity, those type of connections. And of course, Jacques knew all those people. And of course, Jacques is not going to admit whether or not he knew any of these people, but let's just look at it this way. Dino Bravo actually had mafia connections. He was Vic Catroni's nephew, who was a big mobster in the Montreal area. You can look him up. You think Jacques bluffing to Dino Bravo that he talked to people about if anything further happened to him from Dynamite, a hit would be put on his family? You think he's going to bluff Dino Bravo and Dynamite, who's about as hard as they come, is going to believe this and actually sell his house and move his family? I don't buy that. Like back in the 80s, there was a connection to the underworld and wrestling. I'm not saying Jacques was ever part of it, but he was very popular in Montreal, and he definitely would have been able to find people like that and talk to them about that situation. In my personal opinion, it was not actually a bluff, because you can hear Jacques telling this story. He talked about it to me in more detail than anyone. I think there's about a 45-minute clip. If you type in Jacques Rougeau tells Dynamite Kid fight story, I'll even pin that to the top of the comments too. It's like 45 minutes long of him telling the story. He was scared. So when you're that scared and then you screw someone up with a roll of quarters that you know is probably going to get revenge, and you had a way of talking to people to try and get yourself some protection, who knows? I don't know. I wouldn't say that's a bluff, just from the fact that how is Dino going to be bluffed by Jacques? That Jacques talked to some people when Dino was actually involved in that kind of stuff and actually related to a mobster. So that's my opinion on it. Bill Eadie, who was known as Demolition Axe, Mass Superstar, Big Crusher, and Bolo Mongo, who I've interviewed a couple times. You can check out my 2021 interview with him on this channel. He was hospitalized this past week. And Meltzer's reporting heart ailments here, but Billy Graham actually talked to Demolition Smash, as I reported this week. And Smash told Billy Graham that it was related to COVID, which he had earlier this year. And he's now out of the hospital at his daughter's house. So that's the update on that. There is a shareholder, and I believe there's numerous shareholders that might be involved in this, of WWE stock, alleging insider trader by Vince McMahon and some of the people that were formerly involved with his company. That's a long situation, and I only really report the things that are interesting to me in this lawsuit, and it's all related to some shit that went down in Saudi Arabia a couple years ago where the wrestlers were basically held hostage. But I've already covered that, and I honestly don't care enough about this lawsuit to really look into the details and report it. If anyone wants to look into it more, you can search up Amr Dasgir, DASTGIR, WWE lawsuit, and I'm sure it'll pop up. Sean Devari is working as a producer backstage for WWE now. He can teach all the wrestlers how to get over since he did it so great in his career. Here's some information on how WWE tickets are selling for other events other than SummerSlam. The Money in the Bank coming up on the 18th in Fort Worth. There's only about 383 tickets left out of 919. So that one will probably be a sellout. Milwaukee has a house show on July 31st that's only sold around 1,000 to 1,500 tickets. Detroit has a house show August 5th that only has about 1,500 tickets sold at this point, and that's a huge arena. The Chicago Raw has 6,300 tickets sold. SmackDown in Tampa, August the 6th, only has about 1,500 tickets sold, so that is really bad. There's a house show in Estro, Florida that has 2,000, so that's weird. The house show has more tickets sold than the SmackDown in Tampa, and the house show's in a smaller town. There's another house show August 8th in Gainesville, Florida that has 1,400 tickets sold. Raw August 9th in Orlando has 4,000 tickets sold. SmackDown August 13th in Tulsa has 3,000 tickets sold. A house show August 14th in Charlotte has 2,000 tickets sold. 15th in Columbia, South Carolina only has 1,100 tickets sold. The Raw on August 16th in San Antonio, where I'm going to be September 19th on a world-class pro wrestling event that's happening there. I'm going to be covering it for the Hannibal TV, but for the August 16th Raw in San Antonio, there's 4,500 tickets sold. SmackDown August 20th in Phoenix, 4,200. August 22nd in Denver, the house show has 2,200. This is really bad. SmackDown August 27th in Little Rock only has 700 tickets sold. Raw August 30th in Oklahoma City has 2,200 tickets sold. There's a SmackDown taping September 3rd in Jacksonville that only has about 1,000 tickets sold. And Meltzer points out that Jacksonville is oversaturated with all of the AEW events going on there. And I agree. I don't even know why WWE would want to try a taping there. They'll probably end up papering it. Raw in Miami, September 6th, has 1,600 tickets sold. So it's safe to say that unlike UFC, WWE is not a hot ticket. Overall, SummerSlam's doing great. And the first tour of Texas coming up next week is doing great. Or sorry, next month. Next month is doing great. But there's some really bad ticket sales as well. As far as AEW, Meltzer points out that a lot of arenas won't book them because WWE will tell these arena people if they don't want other wrestling coming to those arenas. That even happens not just with AEW, but with other companies, because Great North Wrestling has tried to run some arenas that WWE ran in this area, and I've been told specifically that they can't let me run them due to the agreements they have with WWE. They don't want to piss off WWE because they've been around a lot longer. Meltzer also has another question here that for WWE, if they're only drawing between 3,000 and 6,000 fans for most shows, why do they keep running 18,000 seat buildings rather than smaller arenas? That is a good point. And the reason is that it hurts the perception of the company if they're not running the big arenas in the town and they're running the smaller arenas Instead, it makes them look like a Bush League operation. So I can see why they're doing that. But yeah, it does hurt the atmosphere when you're in an 18,000 seat arena. And in some of these cases, there's like 1,500 people there, 2,500 people there. It just, the sound, the acoustics isn't the same. Mark Henry said on Renee Paquette's podcast that WWE is getting ready to sell, in his opinion. As far as what WWE is looking for in their tryouts right now, they're looking for people between the ages of 20 and 27. 27 is what they're calling, according to Meltzer, the oldest age they want. And they've told some people 26. And they're looking right now for men at least 6 feet tall and 220 pounds. And they're looking for more African American and Hispanics, as well as greater ethnic diversity, such as people from China, India, and the Middle East, since they want to expand in those areas more. Now, again, when you're going for ethnicities rather than talent, you're not going to get the best talent. That's just a fact. But I understand what they're doing it for. NXT had 300 fans this week and did a 0.19 rating. AEW did the same rating last week, 0.19. Raw did a 0.49. I forgot to write down the SmackDown rating, sorry, but I reported it. Let me just look it up so I don't leave that out, just for the record. Sorry. I should come up with a song that I can sing for you guys whenever I look stuff up on this channel. I did report it earlier. Okay, here we go. Here is the SmackDown rating. It did a 0.48, so SmackDown on Fox did a lower rating than Raw. And I'll get back to the news here. Sorry for that. More AEW news. The July 21st show in Garland, Texas, in the Dallas area, which I do like Dallas a lot, by the way. Shout out to all the people from Dallas. It has 3,500 tickets sold. Forbes did a story on Tony Khan that I reported on earlier as I drink some coffee here because I'm going to train after this. And their revenue pales in comparison to WWE, of course. It also noted that Tony's father put $100 million into the company to get it off the ground, and they are still in the red. They have not profited yet. So a lot of people have told me that, first of all, I'm neutral. I'm not an AEW basher. I don't find it entertaining, and I don't find WWE entertaining, and I don't find Impact entertaining. I don't find Ring of Honor entertaining. I do have some friends in MLW, and other than watching them, I don't find their product entertaining either. But some people said, "Oh, you're just jealous of Tony Khan's success, Hannibal. Why you don't like AEW?" No, his father put $100 million into a company. It's not like he built something from nothing. So if someone gives you money, like somebody funded Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain Wrestling as well. It wasn't Cornette's own money, and he put them out of business in 4 years. I mean, Great North Wrestling has been running since 2007. We're 2021 now. We're still banned from doing tapings in front of fans, but we'll do it as soon as we're allowed to. And there's, as I said, I'm self-made. I don't have a rich daddy that gave me 100 million to build a company, but I am not in the red. So you could argue that I'm actually more successful than Tony Khan because I'm not in the red as a wrestling promoter. Obviously, he's rich. And honestly, if I had $14 billion like Tony Khan's dad, and my kid liked wrestling or liked ballet or opera and wanted to do a company about something that he liked, I'd give them 100 million too. It's just a tax write-off. Renee Paquette and John Moxley, Jonathan Good is his real name, I guess. They had their first kid, and it was a girl. Congratulations to them. Never met John Moxley. Although when we were both in Puerto Rico at the same time, I was more popular than him. That is a fact. Mark Henry did an interview with TMZ and says he wants Braun Strowman to come to AEW. He helped recruit him for WWE. Braun is asking for like $25,000 an appearance on the independents. That's a hell of a lot of money. WWE doesn't want him anymore. I don't know what AEW would pay him. They have a really full roster in AEW. They actually have too many people under contract, in my opinion. Especially if they're losing money. They should actually do what WWE has done and have someone go into their company and cut a bunch of people, in my opinion. Trim the fat. That'll help you get out of the red. But Braun Strowman is actually a star, and they are lacking star power. So I would consider him if I was booking for AEW. Taz, who watches this channel, had surgery on July 10th to remove a golf ball-sized fatty lump on the right side of his jaw. Sorry to hear about that. I actually like Taz, by the way. Antonio Inoki was in the hospital looking very frail in a video that was released. I already reported something on his health this week. He's had a lot of health problems over the past year and has been in the hospital most of the year. His lower back is deteriorating and has symptoms of diabetes and other health issues. He's unable to see visitors right now other than a few because catching something could be disastrous given the state of his immune system. New Japan attendance is at its lowest point in the company's history, and Meltzer brings up that Ring of Honor, Impact, and CMLL, who they have working agreements with, simply don't have the talent to move ticket sales in New Japan Pro Wrestling this time. They are doing terrible right now as far as interest. I mentioned last month that their YouTube channel is doing really bad. And I can tell you, I checked the analytics for how they're doing so far this month. By the way, I'm already over 4 million views. They're doing really, really bad this month. Really bad on YouTube. Very, very far from even 1 million views, very far from even 500,000 views on YouTube for the New Japan channel. Which I have to say I'm happy about because I beat AJ Styles twice in one night when he was New Japan champion. I had a New Japan tryout match where my opponent quit the match after 30 seconds, which was the fastest victory. They gave me the victory by countout. And they didn't hire me. And then I did a tryout with them like in this somewhere in 2019, and I did really well at the tryout. And it's like, I'm kicking your guys' ass right now. Even Marshall Von Erich, when I interviewed him yesterday with Ross Von Erich on the very first World Class Cast, the official cast podcast of World Class Pro Wrestling, which we're going to do every Thursday. along with the owner of World Class Pro Wrestling, Jerry the Boss Bostic, is my co-host. Marshall Von Erich said, I would have been perfect for Japan. And yeah, I'm kicking your ass in views, so ha, 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 ha. And by the way, both my grandfathers kicked your ass in World War II. Don West is unfortunately suffering from brain lymphoma and is going to be starting treatment for that immediately. Sorry to hear about that. In UFC news, UFC 236 prelims did a 0.36 rating, and the pay-per-view did 600,000 worldwide buys. Compare that to the NWA that did 500 worldwide buys. Another dead brand. Now, here's something interesting as a guy that I have had some communication with George St. Pierre, because we both trained at the Montreal Wrestling Club for a while. And although I never actually amateur wrestled him, I was at practices with him and I talked to him several times there. I always liked him. He did an interview with Wealth Simple about how much he made in his career. He said his first MMA match for the TKO promotion in Montreal that hasn't run in forever, even before the pandemic. I don't think they ran for like over a year before the pandemic, so I don't know if they're still around or not. But he made $1,300 for that. His first UFC win, he made only $6,000. When he got defeated by Matt Hughes, he only earned $9,000, which is pennies. As far as during his peak, he said people thought he was only making $400,000 a fight, but he was actually making millions because it was part of his contract that he had both a percentage of the live gate and pay-per-view revenue. And he was in talks with another organization before his fight with John Fitch, and they wanted to build the company around him in UFC, so they gave him that deal, which I guess has given him millions and millions of dollars. He said he quit in 2013 because he was disgusted with the level of performance-enhancing drugs use in MMA, and he felt UFC was trying to protect its stars instead of looking at the drug problem. But he came back when UFC was doing the USADA testing, and he said his payday and sponsorship money versus Michael Bisping was $10 million. Oscar De La Hoya's return is going to be September 11th with an 8-round boxing match against Vitor Belfort. De La Hoya's 48, hasn't fought since 2008. Belfort is 44. And Meltzer brings up, is it going to be the Jack Belfort or not off PED Belfort? Well, if it's just an exhibition match, I've never heard of drug testing for an exhibition match because it's just an exhibition. Doesn't even mean it has to be real. So I highly doubt there'll be drug testing. And for these exhibition matches, all they are is exhibition. So for the fans that buy them expecting a real fight, it's an exhibition. It is what they say it is. So don't be disappointed when you watch it and all it is an exhibition, basically a glorified sparring matches. Not that some sparring matches aren't intense, because I can honestly say the worst concussion I've had in fights. Actually, I did have one more from one street fight, but a weapon was used in that. But it was from a boxing sparring match I had. I had a really bad concussion to the point where when I was sitting down after to take off my shoes, the whole room was spinning around me. So some sparring matches can get pretty hard. Danny would love to see Tito's daughter do a flying jalapeno. Let's put up another picture of her. I really like her. There she is. She's very flexible. There she is winning the grappling national championships. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how she does in professional wrestling. I hope her training goes well. John says he thinks it's ego why WWE doesn't run the smaller arenas, even though they're not getting big enough crowds to fill the big arenas in most cases. Herb says excellent updates. Some of those ticket sales don't make him feel so bad. And by the way, Herb has a book coming out related to wrestling at the Chase, and I'm going to have him on. He's the top promoter right now in the St. Louis area, and he's going to be on next Tuesday talking about his new book. And the Harley Race versus David Von Erich match that I posted yesterday was from Herb, who owns a lot of the St. Louis footage. He also runs the Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling company. And by the way, their television show is, when it relaunches, and I think late July, it's going to air on the Hannibal TV. The new World Class Pro Wrestling show that's going to be relaunching in the fall of 2021. I'm going to be part of it, doing interviews, and I'm already working for them as an interviewer, as you can probably tell. And I'm already posting classic matches and classic footage on this channel. But their new TV show is probably going to air on this channel as well as the World Class Pro Wrestling channel that I highly suggest you go over and follow that channel as well. There's a lot of potential with that company. I'm not at liberty to say the people that are involved with booking that company, but there's some huge names involved in booking the new World Class Pro Wrestling, which is changing its name from World Class Revolution to World Class Pro Wrestling. And of course, as Piper comes up to say hi, she is my personal security. She's wearing her K9 unit jacket today because it's cold out there. But yeah, September 19th in San Antonio and October 3rd in Wichita, Kansas are going to be the first two World Class Wrestling tapings for their new relaunched TV show that's going to be airing in at least 5 markets. Let me get to more of your questions here. Who would buy the WWE? Well, their content library, they have all that footage dating back to whenever, at least, I think the 60s. Their YouTube channel has a huge amount of subscribers. They already have over 1 billion views this month. They're making massive money off of their YouTube channel. And I did put up their YouTube revenue last week. I forget what it was, but just because their current product is crap doesn't mean that their content library isn't worth a lot. Danny, why do TV ratings still matter? Why TV ratings matter is because WWE, for instance, is getting hundreds of millions to billions from TV deals that they have. AEW is basically their biggest revenue source is their TV deal. So if they didn't have these TV deals that are based on advertisers like want to advertise on your TV show based on ratings, if they don't have that TV revenue coming in, they have a lot less cash flow. So that's why those ratings still matter, even though there's a lot of other ways to watch stuff these days. Vincent, SmackDown is a dying brand. Steven says Fort Worth is better than Dallas. There is a Dallas-Fort Worth feud. All I know is there's a lot of tolls when you're going from Dallas to Fort Worth, so I didn't go to Fort Worth very often. Can I do an interview with Tugboat? Yeah, I can. I was supposed to a few years ago, but he was sick and I had to pull out. Boss says from Bill Irwin to Jennifer Haas, from the shithouse to the penthouse. And Jennifer Haas is Tito's daughter, for anyone that doesn't know. He didn't raise her. He raised 3 sons, and she only found out a few years ago that he was actually her father, and that was confirmed through a DNA test with one of his sons that he did raise, who she talks to, but she hasn't had much communication with the father, I don't think. But they are on speaking terms, from what I understand from that interview. If you want to know all the details, watch the interview. She's great. She has more, as I told her, she has more charisma than Tito. Merge says Raw is shit. I agree. Stevie, whoever buys WWE will run it into the ground in less than a year. As I said, the value of the footage is worth more than the current company. Andrew, how is AEW a successful company? Their audience has shrunk. Their audience has not expanded. I agree. Pulsar Lights would rather watch old wrestling shows on YouTube than anything out there now. That's what I do. And for the record, I really hope that world-class pro wrestling goes in the direction where it's more of the classic wrestling that the fans like me want to watch. There was definitely some good stuff I've seen in their classic footage, but for the relaunch in the fall, again, it's a different team. It's the same owner, but there'll be a different group involved, and I hope that they go that old school way. I believe that they do have some really good people involved with the booking, and I really hope it goes that way. And by the way, I have to mention that none other than the Blood Hunter is going to be coming to World Class Pro Wrestling as well. He is the Texas Heavyweight Champion, undefeated. To be the man, you got to beat the man. Nobody's beat him for that title. He will be defending it in the Forest of Fear next month, by the way. And if he comes out still champion, he will be defending it in San Antonio on the 19th. And by the way, Shane Douglas is going to be in San Antonio on the 19th, not wrestling Blood Hunter. Has not been announced who the Blood Hunter is going to wrestle in San Antonio. And for October 3rd in Wichita, Stephan Bonner is also going to be there. Jacob Fatu is also going to be there. A lot of good talent. Shane Douglas is also going to be in Wichita as well. Chris says, I'm doing fine on my own without a huge corporation funding me. I am, again, like, I don't want other investors either. I like to have full control of everything. And that's just the way I am. Jay Miller, it's funny. Someone else asked me about Billy Jack earlier today. I haven't heard from him for almost a year. I don't know if he's homeless. I hope he's okay. John Fox, if I had a rich daddy, wouldn't have anything to say either now, would I? I don't know what that means. If I had a rich daddy, I would be... I'd have better production values and I'd be interviewing more famous people, but that's about the only difference. I would have more money. Definitely, I would have more money to have. I actually think I could if I had a TV show or a TV deal that was giving me tons of money. I really think I could have the best wrestling product out there. I do believe that I have a good mind for wrestling. And I do have an old school mind for wrestling, but I do have ideas that are very new school. And I know how to get people over. Look at Lady Yasmin, millions and millions and millions of hits on her videos. And she was one of my projects. Look how I got myself over. I have 170 million views on this channel now. I've never been pushed by a wrestling company, and I'm kicking, for instance, Ryback's ass in YouTube views, and WWE pushed him to the moon. So imagine if I had had a push from a wrestling company. They extended the Canadian border closure again. They're not opening the border. We don't even have the gyms open here, man. They're not going to open the border anytime soon. It's closed for a long time. They just opened the provincial border this week between Ontario and Quebec, which, by the way, you still can't work out in Ontario, but you can drive half an hour to Quebec and work out. And I'm going to start doing that again soon. Vincent says, just keep doing my thing. Thanks you. Andrew says, Tony Khan equals the Jacksonville Dixie. I'll be honest, I would like to interview Dixie Carter, though. Rick Bassman, if you're listening to this, which I'm sure you're not, you still owe me 2 interviews. He was prepaid for 2 interviews he's supposed to hook me up with, and he had promised me my biggest interview yet. So I'm still waiting for it, Rick. Sean says, do I want to interview any of those wrestlers? No, to be honest with you, sorry. Al says, oh yeah, and by the way, Al says Smoky Mountain was WWE funded territory. It was also funded by another rich guy. But here's the funny thing. For everyone that says Jim Cornette is such a great booker, they let him use The Undertaker and a lot of other WWE talent, and he still put them out of business. So please explain to me how he's a good booker. He likes to bash Vince Russo. If it wasn't for Vince Russo, there wouldn't have been an Attitude Era. That's just a fact. Did he do a lot of mistakes? Yeah. But he was a better booker than Jim Cornette. That's just a fact. He had more success as a booker. He was responsible for the Attitude Era. Andrew says Braun has no one to work with in AEW. Stevie says $25,000. That's Hogan's fee. Hogan was, I don't know, Hogan's back rich now after the Gawker settlement. And he's had a bunch of huge payoffs from WWE, including WrestleMania payoffs and Saudi Arabia payoffs. But he was at one point charging $25,000 for appearances, which I think he has enough money now that he wouldn't do appearances for that price. But as recently as, when was it, 2012, Hogan was doing appearances for $25,000. And that's straight from Beefcake told me that. Al Green, who's dead now, that was a good friend of Hogan, also told me that, because around that time I was actually trying to book Hogan for Great North Wrestling. But it never ended up happening. John is also from my town here, Ottawa, which honestly, I really don't like this town. I really don't like it. Sorry, guys. I'd rather live in Arizona, hopefully one day. Mantis says, get better, Inoki-san. Wally, thanks for keeping wrestling fans informed. Mark, keep doing what I'm doing. Christopher wants to see Braun versus Luchasaurus. Charlie said Bill's a true professional. Big Richard, Braun never had the makings of a varsity athlete. I think he was a power lifter. I don't know if he was ever anything but a power lifter. I don't know if he was a football player or not. Alan, have I jobbed to someone? I wonder. Everybody in wrestling, well, anyone that's come up the hard way has had to do that. No, Andrew, they did not. But I will bring up one more thing from the last New Japan tryout I had that you're bringing this back to me now. I had 2 amateur wrestling matches. They made us do amateur wrestling. And in the second amateur wrestling match that I had there, somebody headbutted me, which at one point I had a picture of it. I don't know if I'll be able to find it. But I got my eye busted open, and I still won the match. And those were shoot amateur wrestling matches. And they still didn't hire me, even though I was the best amateur wrestler at the camp. So that was weird. Noah, I have done a Wavell Star interview. Look it up, Wavell Star, the Hannibal TV. Somebody asked me a long question, and I'll find that picture of my eye from the New Japan camp while I'm answering it. Stevie, Cody, and Tony Khan don't want to sign anyone that's going to outshine the bookers. There's actually way too many bookers in AEW. There's Cody, the Young Bucks, Tony Khan, Moxley books, Jericho books, all that other group of buddies there with Cody and the Young Bucks. I don't even know their names. They're all bookers, so there's way too many cooks in the kitchen. Mr. Antonio 2005, I don't really follow MMA closely enough. Misha Tate, I will tell you that there is an interview with Misha Tate on this channel. If you look up Misha Tate, the Hannibal TV. Big Richard says 9,000 in the early 2000s was big money. I don't recall what you're talking about there, though. I forget. Someone's sending thoughts and prayers to Antonio Inoki. Danny loves my Bill Anderson interviews. DH says Canadians for the cup. Well, I'm not really a hockey fan, but if I was to pick a team, I would pick the Montreal Canadiens. Adrian says, hi, guys from the UK. That's an excuse to plug that the Blood Hunter is coming to the UK February 19th. In Gloucestershire, England. That is going to be pretty cool. And I am coming Friday, November 5th and Saturday, November 6th to the Bruiser Brody Cup in Carthage, Texas. And I'm also going to be covering this event that's going to be happening in Philadelphia at the ECW Arena the day before the San Antonio show I'm going to be covering, where Matt Hardy is going to be there. Billy Gunn is going to be in action. It's going to be a big event at the ECW Arena. Somebody asked me a question while I looked for that picture I wanted to show. A good question. Andrew, am I Canadian and don't? What sports do I watch? The only sport I've ever cared about is pro wrestling. To be perfectly honest with you, I watch fighting sports. I watch boxing, kickboxing, and MMA, but only to learn as a fighter. Stuart, I'm not going to go to the I can get across the border. It's only locked for Americans to come here. Canadians can go to the U.S. But I'm not going to the Cauliflower Alley Club this year. There's way too much politics with the Cauliflower Alley Club. I do have tickets for it, and I'm not going to get a refund, but it's not really fun for me. Is pro wrestling a sport? I would say it's a sport. Is bodybuilding a sport? You're doing a choreographed routine. Is gymnastics a sport? You're doing a choreographed routine. I've been injured in pro wrestling very seriously many, many times. If you look at a percentage time, I've been injured more in pro wrestling than I have in real fights, to be perfectly honest. Lots of politics in wrestling, someone says. I agree. Well, have a great weekend, everyone. I'll show that picture on my next update because I feel like working out right now. Someone's asking about Steve Buscemi. I don't even know who that is. I have no idea who that is. I do have a lot of interviews coming up, though. But I'll close this off how I started this. I was going to get this interview with the governor himself, Jesse Ventura, but whoever the asshole is that is representing him is a total piece of shit. So have a great night. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you